Chapter 9. The date gets closer again. At 3 o'clock in the morning on the 11th of January, I suddenly sat up in bed. I listened. Cotty wasn't crying. In fact, she usually slept all through the night by then. But I was cold and afraid in the dark. Suddenly, I realized what had happened. I'd had the dream again. The street, the door, me running out, the man on the ground, me meeting myself. I felt terrible. Since little Cotty had entered my life, I hadn't had the bad dreams. I thought they were a thing of the past. But here they were again, as big and black as before. I couldn't sleep, so I went into the kitchen and made myself some tea. Then I went to the bookshelf in the living room and took down last year's diary. You see, I always keep a diary, where I write down what happens each day. Monday the 18th of January was when I'd had the strange meeting last year. It was 7 days until that date now. Then, suddenly, a new idea came into my head. It was the date that was important. It all seemed so clear. It was not surprising that I'd never met myself again on all those evenings I'd waited in Velké Utsa. I needed to be there on the 18th of January, next Sunday evening, and I'd had the dream again to make me remember. I walked up and down again and again, with thoughts running quickly through my head. It was the date that was important. My reading about ghosts and life after death had helped me to find out about doppelgangers, but I still didn't understand. What I needed to do was to find out what had happened in Velké Utsa or Gergely Utsa, 18th of January in the past. The 6 days which followed that night were very difficult. The next morning, I told Andrea that I'd had the dream again. I think it's the date, the 18th of January, which must be important, I said. Andrea carried on giving Cotty her milk. I want to do some reading about it, I went on. I'd like to start looking at some old newspapers to find out what happened there on the 18th of January. Where can I go to find old newspapers in Budapest? Andrea was angry with me. "Leave it alone, John," she shouted. "There are more important things in your life now." "But Andrea," I started. "You've got a baby to look after," she continued. "And me. You can't use your free time looking for something you won't be able to find." Cotty started to cry. It seemed that she understood that her mother and father were unhappy. I decided to tell Andrea everything I was thinking and doing this time. It had been no good keeping the truth from her last year. So, on Friday the 16th of January, after having the dream every night that week, I talked to her about the coming Sunday. "Andrea, I have to go to Velké Utsa on Sunday," I started. She said nothing. "And I'd like you to come with me." "You must be joking," she said. "But listen, love," I went on, taking her hand. "I need you to come with me." How would that help you? She asked, taking her hand away. There are 2 reasons, I continued. First, because I'm afraid to go by myself. And second, because I want to know if you see anything. But how do you know that this man will be there? She asked. I don't, I replied. But it's the only idea I have about what happened, that it's the date which is important. Andrea said nothing. I watched her. Please, love, I said. It would help me a lot. But what about Cotty? She asked. I'm not taking her with me. Of course not, I said, happier. We'll get your friend Petra to look after her. She said nothing again. Yes? I asked, carefully. She sat thinking for a long time. I waited. All right, she said. But this really is the last time. Okay, I said. Okay. But thank you. I was very pleased, and went to telephone Petra at once. Petra was an old friend of Andrea's, who sometimes looked after Cotty when we went out. I told her we'd unexpectedly been invited to tea at my boss's flat. Luckily, she said yes. I hoped that I would sleep better, knowing Andrea was coming with me on Sunday. I didn't. I had the dream again and again that night, and on Saturday. The dream was almost the same, except that I now seemed to hear a loud noise in the street just before the man came out of the door. I tried to understand what the loud noise was. I listened in my dream, but it wasn't very clear. I knew it was something important, something that would help me, but I couldn't be sure what it was. I often woke up after the dream and felt afraid. I stayed awake in the dark, trying to decide what the dream was trying to tell me. I also worried about what was going to happen if I met my doppelganger again on Sunday.